my college coach, Jim Harbaugh, went on Get Up today, and I guess this might also be the sign of the times that this is quote unquote news. That he's like, let's play with no fans. I'm ready to play with no fans. I think maybe everybody in every sport's getting ready to play with no fans as long as it can be healthy. We had Brian Kelly on the show the other day from Notre Dame, and he was talking about, they're getting ready for no salad bars. Like they literally are down to the granular level of planning for when the kids, if they do come, and that they don't have a protocol to hand to parents yet because the parents need to put kids on the plane to put in his care to actually maybe go back to school and play football. What do you think? I'm sure you're asked this all the time. What do you think about the prospect of a college football season in 2020, Rece?
I'm still optimistic, and more optimistic by the day that it will happen in some form. Obviously, it will be adjusted, and almost certainly adjusted in terms of the crowd, perhaps adjusted in terms of schedule, whether that's truncated or rearranged or mostly conference games or whatever that might be. But I think that there is such momentum, Rich, and such a need financially for the schools to play. And honestly, I think it's a pretty cynical view to say it's just financial. I think that really the culture needs it, a return, if we can safely do so. And I would hope that goes without saying. But if we can, undertaking a reasonable amount of risk, everything carries some risk. If we can undertake a reasonable amount of risk and think that we can do it almost as safely as possible, I think it would be good for everybody if we play. I think the players' considerations and whether they think that they feel secure and safe doing it should carry a lot of weight, too. We haven't heard enough from them. I think that most people in that age group and, having a college athlete in the house is itching to get back. I think most feel like he does, that they want to undertake the risk. And hope that it's not a big one, that they will be protected as best they can. But I'm optimistic that they'll play, and I think Jim's right. It'll probably be in front of limited fans or no fans, and it will certainly be a different viewing experience for people. But I think in the long run that it will be something that will be healthy if, as you said at the beginning, if we can do it reasonably and with as much safety as possible.
Yeah, I guess so. I'd love it too. Again, we have no earthly idea what's going to happen and how it can happen, but you're hearing that if kids aren't back on college campuses from various Big Five commissioners of the sport, that there's going to be no sports, and you have to wonder how are kids going to be back on college campuses right now. That's the one thing that's difficult to get past.
I saw the plan and read the plan that Notre Dame has in terms of they've adjusted their academic schedule, and this is not just for athletes, this is for students as well. And I do believe that because of sort of the insular nature of Notre Dame and everybody living in, on campus throughout there, that if there's any place that can do it effectively, I would put my money on Notre Dame to be able to do so. And I'm sure that they still understand that there's some risk involved. So
sure, the issue is there. The issue there is, Rece, as I talked about it with Brian Kelly, is that their schedule is like a United Nations of conferences. So there's, I believe, 6 ACC, couple of Big Ten. A couple of Pac-12, so they might not even be able. It's not like that one conference can get together and say we are playing. Thus, there are 10 to 12 teams within that conference that has an intact schedule. I do believe, did Brian Kelly say something about Western Michigan? If the ink was dry, they were going to show up to play, is what he said. Yeah. They've got a game against Navy in Ireland, for crying out loud, in which he theorized they could possibly play that in Maryland. But so even if they say we've got this plan, how do they get a schedule? They'd need multiple conferences to agree on the same thing.
And that's the thing, Rich. I do think that there's a lot of momentum for at least most of the schools in the ACC to be willing to play. Now, I think all the commissioners have acknowledged, especially with that conference, because of its geographical footprint, that there might be a situation where a couple of the schools can't play. I certainly hope that all of them are able to do so safely, but that's a possibility. That's what I mean when I say schedules could be adjusted. But if most of the ACC is playing, then Notre Dame would have that chunk of schedule, and then there are other games against the other conferences that it could make it challenging for them. But my thing was more so that I think the university, because of the way they go about their business and the way everybody is right there in a relatively confined area, and from what I read, this is just for the students at large, they already have a plan for if a student becomes ill and tests positive, where would they take them, where would they live, how would they treat them. They've got all of those types of things mapped out. I'm sure they don't have everything covered because there's no way any human being could, but they certainly, at least based on what I read, seem to have a really detailed, complete plan to deal with it on campus to try to ensure everybody's health, be tested when they come in and all of that kind of thing. So, but as it pertains to football, it certainly would be a challenge if a couple of programs on their schedule were not in a position to be able to travel or play, and it would create some challenges. But I think that I'm still optimistic that the majority of the schools will be able to play, and I hope that all of them that feel comfortable doing so are able to do so.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.